right, welcome. Hello, and welcome to the rAVe Esports Show. I'm your host, Bubba Gaddard. Thank you so much for being here today. It is March 28th. It is 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. We've got a fun show to talk about the stuff that we've been talking about for the past few years. Well, I guess probably since the 70s, when it comes to all the things we're going to talk about today. And I'm super excited to have a great guest. If you haven't been around, this is our 10th episode, and we have been streaming all sorts of fun stuff around esports, scholastic esports. We've had people actually 2 weeks ago, we were at the Army West Point Esports Arena, and we actually got to get a live view. If you haven't seen that episode, just go back to any of the socials for rAVe or me, and you can see that we actually toured with Victor Castor, his arena inside Army Esports. And it was really neat. So if you're here today, we're going to be talking about the Metaverse. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be spending some time learning some things about virtual reality, AR, XR, and I'm super pumped. If you didn't know, this show is also a charity partner of the Video Games and Esports Foundation. If you want to support the Video Games and Esports Foundation, support disenfranchised students in low-income areas with access to STEM education through video game and esport clubs in schools with these low-income communities. That's what the Video Games and Esports Foundation does. Kyle, thanks so much for being here. I love it. Thank you so much. If you guys are in the chat, we got about 9 people in the chat right now. Thank you guys for being here. We'll have some other shows actually coming up here in 2 weeks, I believe. It might be actually sooner. I'll have to double check my calendar, but we're going to have Joni Kraut. Joni Kraut is the executive director of the Women in Games International nonprofit organization, and she was just at GDC, I think, as well as it's next week. Thank you, Carrie. It is next week, next Thursday. That's right. We pushed back a week because of big events happening around the world for AV. So next week we'll be doing a show with Joni Kraut, and we'll be talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. And so if you're sticking around, please check the show out. This whole time we're going to be talking about the Metaverse as well, but we're going to drop a real quick commercial for 2 of our sponsors, Nortrick and Extron.
Get future ready with Extron Esports AV technologies. Experience better looking images and higher quality sound with AV systems that are easy to control. When it comes to esports, Extron provides the winning edge. To learn more, visit extron.com/esports.
All right, so thank you, Extron and Nortrick. Thank you so much for sponsoring. Big shout out as well to the rAVe agency, rAVe Pubs, Gary K and Carrie Lartz. We are live on multiple platforms. Let me just read the list here. We're on Kick, Twitch, 2 Instagrams, 2 LinkedIns, 2 YouTubes, Facebook, Twitter. We are also on TikTok as well. So if you're over there on TikTok, hello, how's it going? Yes, hello, how's it going, VF? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. But we're going to jump in right now, spend some time with our guest, and learn about the Metaverse and learn about AR and VR. And I'm going to bring in my guest, Ed. How are you today, sir? Oops. How are you, sir? I might have lost him just at that moment. That was perfect timing.
I'm doing
there we
great.
Go. Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks for jumping on. I know
you're
you're
great, Bubba. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know you're in a different spot today, so internet might be a little rough, but I think we got you back. So thanks so much again for being here. Let me see how long the delay is from when you're talking. So I'm gonna count to 3. You tell me when you hear me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, a little bit of delay. That's okay. Well, what we're gonna do, Ed, if you don't mind refreshing that page and coming back in, we'll get you rolling again. And we're gonna check out some really cool stuff with Neutrik and Extron one more time. And yep, we'll check out this stuff and we'll be right back. See you a second. All right, perfect timing. It's funny, we were just talking about EA, and he was like, "Hey, I'm glad we got a video expert." And I said, "Man, there's going to be issues with tech, and it's going to happen." And what do you know? It happened right there. But I'd love to hear from the chat. We've got about 12 people in the chat from all over, from different platforms. What do you guys know about the Metaverse or AR? We're going to bring Ed back in here and pull him into the show. But give me just 1 second, Ed, and I'll pull you in. But I'd love to hear from the chat. Okay, he's good. I'd love to hear from the chat. Metaverse, AR, what do you know? But Ed, hello, welcome, sir. How are you? We got the signal going green now.
Bubba, thanks. Sorry about the delay there. Happy to be here and happy to talk about Metaverse with you and guests and be as informative and engaging as possible. So thanks for having me.
I was just telling the audience, like you were saying, video expert. I said there's always going to be an issue, and there is. That's okay. Yeah. This is how it works. We're all used to it from all the Zoom calls we had during COVID, and people turn their mic off and on. So thank you again. Yeah, I'm ready to jump in. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your career though, and how you got to where you are. A little bit of your background. Like what's your background? Where'd you go to college, and what did you learn, and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So thank you. So right now, currently, I'll start with the present and I'll walk back a little bit. So currently I'm the co-founder of Get Real XR.
Okay.
And Get Real is an immersive technology consulting firm located in Chicago. Prior to that, I spent nearly 25 years in capital markets and financial trading. So my background was in actually equity options trading. And worked through, the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s in that realm where, first one of the early, but, not the only industry that was really transformed by technology and the applied use of technology as things became, that business went 100% automated over a period of about 10 to 12 years and was able to see that as it evolved and some of the challenges. So got a lot of experience scaling and growing businesses with the help of technology. And that, as we wound that business down in 2018, I worked for a couple of years on a Bitcoin project around in not the early days of Bitcoin, but still fairly new in terms of the first onslaught of publicly traded knowledge that happened with crypto in general. So
sure.
Worked on a project over 2 years and then got back together with an old partner and we decided to start Get Real under the promise that, there's new technology always. And in this case, it was, immersive technology. It was virtual reality. It was augmented reality. And, these were going to be, we saw a lot of the same potential as we did for the things that led to automated trading back in the early 2000s. And so, certainly we're early at the time, but wanted to be able to be that, go-to knowledge source for hardware, for software, for applications, for, businesses and organizations looking to leverage new technology. And so that's what we've built up as Get Real, as being that kind of trusted partner at early stage when, consultants generally matter and people are looking to sometimes catch up on technology, looking to stay abreast on things that move quickly. They all have day jobs. And so we've been able to carve out a space for us as kind of leaders in really all immersive technology and its applications towards, various different use cases.
Wow. That's awesome, man. Now this is a show focused a little bit on gaming, focused a little bit on esports. what what in your history was gaming a part of your life? Where was this arcades? What younger Ed? What games did you play?
Yeah, certainly an early, an early gaming enthusiast.
Hmm.
For back in my time, it was home consoles and such, and arcades.
Hmm.
You know, that always captivated me and was able to hold a lot of attention. And I
Yeah.
think back in the early stages, like the hours spent gaming just shows the power of kind of a well-built, a well-crafted gaming experience, whether it be visually, whether it be strategically.
Mhm.
And so those types of games that were kind of longer players were always ones that, even back to Mario
Mhm.
those ones kind of held my attention more. And I think that is kind of what you're seeing a lot today when people talk about gamification of
Okay.
experiences.
Right.
Obviously gaming experiences have gone just nuclear in terms of their
Mhm.
capabilities and the complexity. And I think it's been quite instructive to where, the broader marketing, training, education. You mentioned your segment with the military last week.
Mhm.
It's no secret that they have an esports arena there, and that's not just because they want to offer a lot of fun and
Right.
relaxing, relaxation time to their students,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of practical applications people learn, and the learning and the intensity that can be delivered through these gaming experiences and through the game engines that they're developed on can be applied in certain ways that can really increase the efficacy of education, of training, certainly visualizing data, visualizing space in a new way. So,
Yeah.
some of that early enthusiasm and certainly the applied nature of it as we kind of see it coming through today is what really interests me most.
You're exactly right. Speaking of that episode last week, was we were crammed in between two different events they were doing, and just to show off their arena. And the event afterwards was the guys coming in, the students, I guess, coming in to actually do training in front of a big wall with like guns, the M16s that were digital or whatever, but they
Mm-hmm.
were as physical guns, but they were hooked up to the computer. And so yes, it
Yeah.
is definitely a lot of multi-purpose there for sure.
Anything that's dangerous, anything that's expensive to recreate, anything that is
Hmm.
um,
Mm.
hard to get repetition in.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, certainly, whether it's the military or whether it's heavy machinery or driving forklift
Hmm.
operations, from the very intricate to the somewhat mundane. Um, there's a lot of data out there
Hmm.
that backs up the fact that the more people can kind of be in that environment, the more you can put your brain in the environment to kind of
Yeah.
learn. Is it will never replace the real online, real life training per se, but you can do a lot of building up before that real life training to
Hmm.
help familiarize people with routines, familiarize people with operations, to have them understand what it's like. You can replicate some of that nerve, that tension, certainly with the addition of biometrics. So it's
Hmm.
a pretty interesting field, and here it is at usually cutting edge is military, but we're seeing that across a lot of it in logistics, in trucking, in training. Again, heavy machinery operation, a lot of oil rig, oil, energy and gas
Yeah.
safety, mining safety. These very industries where one mistake, where you generally are trying to train a lot of unskilled labor, newly skilled labor,
Hmm.
and one mistake could be costly, even deadly. The more you can replicate those environments through these video game like experiences, the more
Hmm.
you can prepare people for real life and increase safety. And that's where, that's just one of the ways
Yeah,
that we see the technology being adopted.
that definitely makes sense. When it's funny to think that a lot of this stuff potentially or particularly starts in the military because of the access and the funding and the use, and then gets out to the
Mm-hmm.
public. I think about it's funny, down the road we have here in Kansas City, we have Garmin, who makes devices and wearables and all sorts of stuff. And the creator of Garmin, Gary, he was the Gar in Garmin, who went to church with us, who was explaining how they took the contract from the military for GPS because it wasn't out there in the public yet. And they now, at that point in the 90s or whatever it was, they were able to use GPS as a thing outside of the private or the national, military sector. And so it's fun to see.
Sure.
And yeah, like last week, and the students using then esports or gaming, and as to your points on all the stuff that's around safety, yeah, why not learn it first? I think there's a lot of that, right? There's a lot of this stuff that you live in, really, in AR and VR, that I definitely want to dive into here in a minute after Metaverse stuff. That just is why we need this, because it makes more sense physically and mentally and safety wise. So I really appreciate that part of it. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's anything that's really, you're talking about the broader simulation environment. So you're talking about medical simulations, you're talking about
Mhm.
military simulations, you're talking about um, routine simulations for again, machinery, the ways that you can just do more to simulate the environment that people are in.
Mhm.
The retention levels, the engagement levels on the training, they all go up versus
Mhm.
computer-based training. And so, we're also, the other thing is, think demographically. I'm sure this is true with your audience too,
Mhm.
Bubba. As you think through, most of these industries are seeing a tremendous change, upheaval in how they, in the types of candidates they're seeing. So, you have a big knowledge, big piece of the workforce with a lot of inherent knowledge that's retiring. There's a need to bring in people who are younger, who are less skilled, and have to get them up to speed quicker.
Mhm.
We saw that coming out of COVID, where there was just this influx of demand for hiring because these industries needed to ramp back up. um, you're engaging an audience that's grown up with technology. You're engaging
Yeah.
an audience that's grown up playing video games
Mhm.
on phones, on mobile devices. And so, you're going to have to, as opposed to throwing a 3-ring binder in front of them or have them sit through 5-hour lectures, you're going to have to engage them via a technology that they're used to and they're comfortable with, to attract them, to engage them, and to have them retain what you're teaching them. So
Mhm.
it really speaks to the audience as well, not just the efficacy of the tools, but it
Yeah.
speaks to the audience that's being recruited into these industries. And that's, another strong trend that we see, of like, just that's what's driving adoption.
Right. Well, I want to jump into what the metaverse is not, and I want to go. I want to go back to. I want to go back a little bit. We were talking last week. I was talking about my brother, um, working at this VR place in Oklahoma City, and I don't know. I really don't remember what it was doing. I just know it was something. He was making enough money where he bought us a DVD player when DVD players first came out. So I think that he was doing good, or whatever it was. This was the 90s. I don't know, 96. Who knows? 98. And I remember those large VR kind of big cabinets that they would have space
Hmm.
flight simulation type stuff, and then I think those kind of things built into Disneyland. Or now, if you go to Harry Potter World, you can kind of ride big kind of reality type rides. But I look back at things like Lawnmower Man from I don't know if that's the 80s or 90s, but a movie when virtual reality, and
Hmm.
Johnny Mnemonic and all these different movies with virtual reality, where it was kind of this new age thing. And how I feel like, if that was movies then, how slowly we've taken to really have stuff on our face, like easy for $600 or $1,000 or $3,000, whatever it is, compared to, obviously, Nintendo had a kind of headset you could kind of put your chin on and look at and play with these red kind of lines and play games. I can't remember, it's called Game something, not Game Boy, but something like that. And how it's kind of slowly gotten there, but even though tech overall has gotten larger, faster, quicker in the past 50 years. But I want to talk about what metaverse is not. I think over the past few years, we've all, especially the news stories, have been, wow, check out that metaverse. Look at those people walking around. They're like, oh, it's the metaverse. It's like Ready Player One. And I have my explanation of what I tell people for metaverse and compared to AR, VR, and XR. You and this expert in this field, can you help describe what people need to know what the metaverse is, and how we've kind of moved away from it and Meta's involved and all this other stuff with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. Can we just give an overarching kind of 30,000 foot view definitions of metaverse, AR, VR, and even we'll talk into spatial computing right after that. So give me some knowledge here, Ed.
Sure. So it's, as you kind of alluded to, Bubba, it's ask 100 people, get 100 answers. And certainly in the past, in the past 2.5 years, we've seen the definitions of what people consider metaverse wildly change. I'd point to a couple things, that really were up there. If you ask me what my definition of metaverse is, I tend to be pretty broad, and I say, look, it's an intersection between this physical and these digital worlds. We're used to digital worlds when we're playing a video game, for instance, and that's where this game engine piece comes into. People are very comfortable with that. We obviously consider the physical world, but when those two worlds mix, when we can step in and out of them, in a seamless or increasingly more seamless way, that is really gives rise to what people are referring to as the metaverse. And the metaverse is this confluence of technologies. It's virtual reality. It's augmented reality. It's painting the world with data. It's hardware that might have you be able to access these types of medical worlds, whether it's augmented reality glasses or things like Apple Vision Pro. It's also it has a future in terms of how people interact with customers and with clients, and so that's where you get this Web3 angle of, whereas I have now you would say I have a web page up to support the podcast or a web page to support my company. I might have a 3D interactive experience that people can step into as a way of promoting my brand and such. So it's this confluence of the physical and the digital and the way people can interact with it. We're still at the very beginning of it. I think that it can get really caught in a big hype cycle, as it did for a while, and be a lot of things that ultimately may not achieve. I don't know if we'll be sitting here talking about seamless integration in the next 2, 3, 4 years of physical and digital worlds, but certainly that is what the space that the metaverse occupies in. There were people back, let's go back to a big, when did it really become popular in the lexicon? Well, you have Facebook, who has been the leader in VR, at least in commercial VR, starting with Oculus Rift, or starting with the Rift, and then they bought Oculus. And then really right around the time, 2020, right around the time of the pandemic, is Quest 2 comes out. So Oculus Quest being an untethered device, Oculus Quest 2 being, the next generation of that. That's a virtual reality device that they've sold 22, 23 million units for. So, small in some regards, but quite large in terms of commercially available VR for, available for $200, $300, $400. Facebook had a lot of reasons why they wanted to change their name, but Mark Zuckerberg leaned a lot into this whole idea of metaverse, and renamed the company. And all of a sudden, metaverse took off in the lexicon. And that became kind of the stalking horse for all things possible around convergence technology. So not only did you get this intersection of physical and digital world, you got things like, very much NFT market became brought into metaverse, and blockchain and crypto, certainly, which, you could argue whether that is or is not. I'm not going to be the one that ultimately decides that, but that had its own hype cycle. And then very quickly after they renamed the company Meta, the old, what used to be Facebook Reality Labs, in an earnings announcement, maybe they changed the name in October. And by February, in their earnings announcement, they're going to publicly stated for the first time that the old Facebook Reality Labs is going to lose about $10 billion a year, until we don't know when. And so the stock, Facebook Meta stock tanks. We go through that very lull time. We have, generally the NFT market kind of collapses, and we see that hype, the Bored Ape type NFT interactions go way down. And so, metaverse goes into kind of this down cycle where, it's a sham, it's a scam, so we've gone through the it's a panacea, it's a cure for everything. Then it's a huge problem, it's a cure for nothing. And we're kind of right back now to a very pragmatic state where, people do see the value of these interactive experiences. They do see the ways that they can build brand, build engagement. You're seeing a lot of it on the marketing side through augmented reality, through filters. They're not. We could talk about devices in a moment, but largely most of the way that people are interacting with VR, AR, Metaverse is through their phones, mobile AR. And the QR code has been back, so to speak, of trying to get into these experiences. So it's going to take time along the way. We've gone through cycles. We'll see other up and down cycles for sure. And whether Metaverse stays as a top, Metaverse has now been permanently, right or wrong, it's been associated with Zuckerberg and Meta, for obvious reasons. But just within the last 2 months, when you've seen Apple Vision Pro come out, you won't see Apple talk at all about the Metaverse. They're going to talk about spatial computing. They're going to talk maybe even immersive experiences. So they're going to distance themselves from that terminology very distinctly and very purposefully to kind of position themselves opposite of Meta. Generally, that's going to be good for the market when you have two big players that are trying to drive the technology forward and drive adoptions. Apple can reach people in ways only Apple can. And oh, by the way, Meta still is incredibly effective and incredibly good at putting out, commercially viable, consumer device, and continue to innovate along that path. So I'd be happy to kind of dive into that deeper, but like that's a kind of a recent history of what you see. So do I get caught up in what's Metaverse, what's not Metaverse? Probably not. In general, I like to think of just immersive tech. I'm sure we're going to get to AI in a second, and I won't spend a lot of time on it now, but there's a lot of people, and I'm probably one that believes that like all great technology kind of converges over time. And there's a large AI piece to Metaverse, I believe, too. Whether that be, LLM powered chatbots, and when you can combine, the knowledge and dialing in the efficacy of a chatbot that's powered by an LLM around a particular subject, combine that with, say, Unreal Engine metahumans, and being able to recreate, that avatar, that real looking avatar, and get into some training interpersonal scenarios with that, or have that be a brand ambassador for you in an immersive experience that people can join. Have that be text to voice around something like 11 Labs technology, where you can imitate voice and all these things, and text to video is out there, and text to 3D will be out there shortly. So all of these things kind of will intertwine. So it's really interesting to think about it, and certainly not done evolving.
Yeah. Well, I love that I'm able to now use Canva in my Chat GPT, which is nice. So I think we'll definitely jump into AI. I use it way too much. I want to go. It's funny because I look at this book almost is outdated now, even though I've recommended it for the past 2 years, because this was 2 years ago when Matthew Ball's book came out, and it's interesting because there's just so much stuff there now that's really good and informative, but now things have changed, and I think he knew that when he wrote that. But I do want to ask about so that was helpful in understanding the metaverse, because when I think about XR VR, and I found this graphic, it may be crude, but I like seeing this kind of graphic because XR does encompass these things of augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, and I know that's a big component of what you do and what you work on daily, and it's fun to see. For my sake, in 2013, it might have been 15, Pokemon Go was a big deal with augmented reality, and excuse me, and using augmented reality and having my boys at the park, and we're walking around and catching Pokemon, but then I have them standing next to a Pokemon, next to a sign or whatever, and that's augmented reality. And when it comes to VR, AR, mixed reality, before we jump into AI and your company, I want to know, like, what is missing from the world of virtual and augmented reality besides price, besides the price of things? Like, what is missing and what's next?
Well, I would say, I'll tie into a little bit of what we're seeing in the marketplace now. So ultimately, many people believe that the VR and the AR are going to converge in these kind of mixed reality devices. You're seeing that in Apple with Vision Pro. You're actually even seeing that with Quest and Quest 3. What's really kind of unlocked more of a business enterprise use case to get it away from just a personal, consumer device has been this pass-through technology. So that is literally, I'm no longer in a scene. I'm seeing my office. I'm seeing the outside world. I'm seeing the lake. I'm seeing the traffic. But I've got, this virtual world overlaid on top of it. So I'm much more functional in what I can do from a work perspective, from a productivity perspective. I can take meetings. I can watch 5 different monitors. I can, have scrolling information. I can make calls. I can do all this from just, the seat of my desk, or, even walking around in an airport lounge, et cetera. So like that's been the big enabler. And I think that's going to be ultimately where these devices go. You'll be able to enter an occluded VR mode, where it is important to have the outside world shut out, and to be alone in those experiences because of either the empathy or the focus that they allowed, but then also be able to switch back into this pass through or this AR world where, the data is just overlaid on the real world environment. What's holding that back from being a total reality now is form factor in the device. We aren't ready to be walking around with the boxy Quest 2 on our head.
Okay.
I can sit here in my chair right now. I can wear that I'm a professional. I can wear that for probably an hour and a half, battery life, Apple Vision Pro, again, little heavier, pretty well balanced, but yet again, you're probably talking about, you're talking about an hour and a half. Like, you need to get to the point down the road, and we're not there yet, where convergence of technology gives you something that looks like the pair of glasses that you're wearing right now, or a pair of Ray-Bans. You see it a little bit with this Facebook Ray-Ban stories, by Facebook or by Meta. That's the first cut of what that form factor. Now, you can't put the compute in there. Apple's going to say, I'm not giving you a headset, I'm giving you a computer. So you're wearing a Mac on your head, not a pair of glasses.
Exactly.
But ultimately, the world where, your phone costs $2,500 and it's running on 5G technology, so all your compute power is happening up on the edge, on the pole, and your glasses are just an interface into what's happening in your pocket for the compute. There is what people think is going to be the big unlock. We are years away from that, both socially and practically from a technical standpoint. But ultimately, as that form factor gets more social, and you'll see people wearing Vision Pro now in airport lounges. I mean, people remember the big failed experiment of Google Glass back in 2014, 2013, 2014.
Oh, quite, yes.
The world was not ready for people to have outwardly facing cameras on their glass. And people were ostracized for it. The world's a little different now, for sure, but that form factor has to be right for people to be able to wear that in public. So, that's why you're seeing so much of AR go through on phones. People are not going to wait for that technology to try to advance some of the use cases. But ultimately, as that form factor begins to merge and you're able to choose between occluded and kind of pass through AR modes, if you will, and it becomes lighter and it becomes just like wearing a pair of glasses. No one thinks twice about wearing ski goggles on the ski hill. No one thinks twice about wearing goggles if you're driving a motorcycle, or if you're in other areas where it's safety goggles and safety glasses in an industrial environment. It just has to get to the point where it's socially acceptable to wear these types of devices, and we're getting there. That will be a big unlock, and that's, I think, will drive a big tech.
All right, we're taking
the key is it's going to be a while, and so people still are innovating now. Like, it's good enough now. It just, people know it's going to be better. What does the 4th version of Apple Vision Pro look like on your head? So,
well, you're
seeing it now,
walking around, like walking around. There's plenty of videos of people walking around doing life with their Apple Vision Pro day to day, and it's great. It's early on, these videos were who can make this video first and who can be funny about it. I also want to ask about the AI pin. I lost it. The AI pin. I'll pull that back up. well, let me find it. The AI pin that that got all the craze this last, I don't know, year. Let me pull that AI pin by Humane, I think. Pull up the video. And so I kind of wanted to know where does this categorize in this device is cool, because here in a second I'll show you show the audience, he's putting on his shirt and he's then asking a question and it pulls up on his hand and it's projected. Where does this fit in? Where does this qualify in the world of things we're talking about? What is it? What category are we putting this in? Or is there one?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would view that, again, I'm probably a little more skeptical on these types of devices in the long run. Who knows what the form factor is going to look like for these AI interfaces. We're already pretty well adept at using a phone. Certainly when you're talking about, the ability just to speak into something, we should no longer have to type in, and the world eventually is going to get away from people just face with their phone, just like this. So like, I understand why they're trying to create these. You press the button, you speak into it. It's an online, chatbot assistant, powered by ChatGPT, powered by Gemini, whatever it might be. So I think it's, to me, it's just the interface. It's not the operating system, but it's just the interface by which people are going to interact with some of this advanced technology. It could very well be a pair of glasses. Bose has an AR, it's more of an audio based device, but that has a smart glass right now that's projecting audio through your temples on the stem of the glasses. So whatever the device is, it certainly will not be keyboard. It will be voice driven.
Right.
And ultimately, if you think about the way people traditionally interact with computers, this gets back to that spatial computing. Again, all these things kind of converging, it is not, we've ever since computers were invented, they ever had a keyboard or a mouse. And then sometimes it was a touch screen, and that's how people interact with them. Well, eventually, think of what gets blown away when you can just speak into a computer and you can use natural language.
Right.
So in many ways, Vision Pro or an AR glass and some of these technologies aren't the next evolution of an operating system, if you will, for a computer. It's the final. It's right. Some people I've heard voices. It's the final operating system for a computer. They'll no longer, I can be spatially aware and I can move my hands through files and I can pull documents down, or I could start applications, or I can speak into things and get answers. It can be displayed in front of me in my glasses, overlaid the augmented world. Like, there is no higher form. I mean, I guess you could probably be doing it through like Neuralink, but there's no higher form of human computer interaction than just using, my hands, my voice, my eyeballs, my gaze, and being able to control. And that's, that's come a long ways from DOS prompts and coding languages and trying to understand, learn C# and learn Java. Ultimately we're going to be entering in a world, further down the line where, the way people interact with devices will have changed. And so these are just steps along the way, for sure.
Well, I want to come back here in a second after a quick word from Extron, our sponsors, about Get Real, and then some really cool videos that you provided. So we'll be right back. We're going to check out this commercial.
Get future ready with Extron Esports AV technologies. Experience better looking images and higher quality sound with AV systems that are easy to control. When it comes to esports, Extron provides the winning edge. To learn more, visit extron.com/esports.
All right. I want to jump into Get Real and your organization. Tell me what you mentioned in the beginning of the show, but if you're just tuning in, we're here with Ed from Get Real and the co-founder, talking about Metaverse, AR, VR, XR, spatial computing, AI, everything that is always in the news that you are blowing right over your head. So tell me about Get Real.
So Get Real, we're an immersive, as I said earlier, we're an immersive technology consulting firm. based in Chicago. We really have three areas of business that we've evolved into our focus. So number one is traditional hardware and software consulting and immersive tech. So that is, use case, whether it be training, whether it be education, whether it be, architecture, engineering, construction, whatever. Trying to pair up hardware, pilot programs, testing, and really, traditional deployment of early stage technology within an organization. We're primarily focused on enterprise organizations and businesses. That tends to be where we think, going back to our belief that, these are really going to be the enabling tools of our time and ways that business can scale using technology. So we offer, traditional consulting services in that regard. Of note, which I think we'll see some examples of them here in a moment, we're really into the design of these immersive experiences. So, for clients, for instance, we've worked with the United States Olympic Committee, we've worked with University of Maryland Global Campus. When people are looking to have one of these metaverse experiences, from the creative design to the structure, to the onboarding, to the testing, we can build these experiences from beginning to end and ensure and support them to make sure that they're effective for our clients and their ultimate users. So what you're seeing right now, University of Maryland Global Campus, one of the largest online providers of post-secondary education, they're already an online university. They were looking for a way to leverage the metaverse in their work to have a homecoming event over the course of 2 or 3 weeks back in October. They service over 80,000, students in 3 time zones, Europe and Asia, as well as the U.S. They're the number one provider of post-education to the U.S. military.
Wow.
So we built and designed this kind of virtual world using Unity. So a lot of video game elements to this as well, for networking, for presentations.
Going in.
Networking, presentations, portals. You can see a little bit here. There's been an online, we had an online dance party with the DJ that was simulcast from an in-person event. So, these types of events are very common for people that not only are already tech forward, but they're trying to harness a remote audience, and they're trying to engage people in new technologies. Many people got into this experience on the browser. So it was kind of a 2D it was on the 2D browser, but this was also available in headset as well.
Okay.
So, it was a, incredibly immersive experience as you were walking around in a headset. It was hosted on a platform, spatial.io, which is one of several hosting platforms that we use, which are very common today. If people remember the old AltSpace VR, VR chat in some degrees, there's several other ones for various different use cases. So we build these immersive experiences to client specs. We can do the creative, but we also, just the way you would engage almost an event coordinator, an event planner, an event consultant in real life. We're coming in as well. Do this, don't do this. This works well, this doesn't. Let's get your speakers trained up. Let's make sure the event flows. Let's make sure people have fun, all these things. 100%. Leveraging and this technology is ready now. But it still is in its early stages. So it doesn't do everything that you can do in the physical world, but we can help people kind of build these experiences. So the last thing is we have a knowledge-based AI tool solution. I talked earlier about the convergence of what rAVe AI and Metaverse. So we have our own LLM powered tool that combines a lot of the work we used to do, frankly, in the knowledge capture for our consulting firm, that really can apply towards any industry, and leverages all of the natural language processing and sourcing of data, but able to offer citations, be able to customize output. I mentioned all the different formats before, and leverage LLMs for that big, powerful summary engine to do so. So, that's where we're focused on today. It tends to change a little bit. It's evolved over time, but as I said, these really powerful technologies, and you can't go anywhere without AI, but we believe that, Metaverse is real, and it is still there despite some of the, the ways AI is taken off the shelf, but these convergent points in the future really are where we're focused on. So that's where we focus on as for offering, value to our clients.
So we saw the campus. Now this is more, this is a little bit more gamified, isn't it?
You're right. So your game audience will recognize a little bit
Yes.
of this. This is just a simple climbing game. So
Uh-huh.
this is built on Spatial, again, is the platform spatial.io. And this was a way when they released their developer toolkit and opened up their platform to game developers. We wanted to kind of show a little bit of our chops to our clients of what we do in terms of gamified experiences. We don't consider ourselves the people that are going to develop the next first-person shooter in the
Mhm.
metaverse, or in independent online game platform like Spatial or others.
Right.
So we're not going after that market per se, but here is a challenge experience. On average, it
Mhm.
takes people between 25 and 30 minutes to complete, headset or browser. It's travel this cityscape, uh, you
Mhm.
know collect coins as you collect coins for prizes, collect these power cubes you see highlighted in orange. With doing that, you increase your jump height, and so you're able to
Mm.
jump higher
Okay.
and create all the way to the top. So you're in this cityscape trying to, rooftop rush is the name of the game,
Yeah.
trying to climb up. I think what's important to take away here, the gameplay is great.
Yeah.
It's fairly simple, I will say. So I'm not trying to pass this off as the next, uh, you know, it's a fun game to play, but it is engaging.
Mhm.
And so when we talk about some of our clients and we really see a lot of people coming to us for gamified experiences.
Right.
And so what if this was not just rooftop rush where you go in and play it? But what if this was a way that I go stage to stage to stage,
Mhm.
um, and learn more about a particular brand? Or it's a
Yeah.
training
Yeah.
experience where I collect a coin every time I learn a little bit more about the history of the product or
Mhm.
history of the company. Or it's a
Mm.
brand experience where I'm able to engage in a different way. And I'm spending, 20, 25 minutes trying to win this game. I'm playing it in a headset. I'm playing it on my browser. I'm playing it on my mobile phone.
Mhm.
A different experience, engaging. It's just scratching the surface, but I think it can be very effective for, we've seen museum clients, for instance, come out
Yeah.
and
Right.
want to build these interactive experiences. And again, educational, training, a little more corporate experiences where we would focus on, but all around leveraging these gamified. So gamification is very big conflict,
100%.
a big trend that we see, and the ability to kind of customize and build these things, to client specs is something that we're really excited about. So you'll see a
Amazing.
lot more of this going
Mhm.
forward, in various different formats. You're already seeing it again in the mobile AR on the phone, where scan a QR code, have an experience, get a, based on proximity, get a
Yeah.
coupon sent to you,
Right.
so, more of an e-commerce type play, but, ways and again, that if I'm spending 20 minutes, seeing, my brand in that experience that I
Mhm.
built, that's a lot different than someone who's staring at a web page or trying
Right.
to sit through a
Exactly.
webinar.
Exactly.
So like I think that's where the game engine, element, you're seeing that in platforms like Roblox.
Mhm.
You're seeing that in platforms, in Unreal Engine, in Fortnite, at a larger scale. You know, what you're seeing here in Spatial and others is a little bit more, that's a DIY, more independent platform. But that trend around gamification and brand,
Mhm.
uh, interaction and engagement is certainly out there. So
Love it. Love it. Ed, this has been great, man. As we wrap up here, I kind of want to give a little brief recap. I mean, we talked about spatial computing, we talked about metaverse, AI, AR, VR, XR, MR. Like, um, with your organization, Get Real, what does it look like to be a client of yours, and what does it look like to what are there heavy costs involved, or is it more accessible than something? If I wanted to run an event, if I wanted to run an event in a big conference
yeah,
center and spend 20 to 50 or $100,000 on the event, what is that in comparison to running an event in this
yeah.
space with Get Real?
There's a couple ways to answer that, Bob, and they all start with it depends, of course. But what I will say is that there's a couple things I think that are important to pull away. Number one, it's not free. So in the
Hmm.
same way, so oftentimes people come to us, this is really cool. I don't want to have to deal with renting a room. I don't want to have to pay
Right.
for speakers. We're remote. It should be easy. it's not as if that these events you don't have to spend some investment. You have to get investment in the right platform. You have to spend some investment in training and onboarding. We've seen events fail miserably in the metaverse when people expect their guests to come in and send them a link 5 minutes before and say, hey, join this and listen to the speaker.
Right.
People are standing on the stage, people are standing on top of each other. Like there is claustrophobia in the metaverse if people are too close to you. So there's a little bit of training and onboarding and preparation that you need to do to get the most out of your guests, especially if you're trying to get them into an experience where you want them to be productive or you want them to do more than just have fun. So that said, what don't you have to worry? You can build these experiences, and I would say the average project that we do ranges in the few tens to thousands of dollars. We're not working on things that are six figures per se, but to do it right,
Sure.
potentially 10, 15, $20,000 are some of the projects that you see. That said, that installation, that activation is yours permanently. That's not a rental room that needs to be torn down a day after the event that you can't come into. So the benefits of being able to reuse the space, you develop a little bit of a brand identity. If you're having a conference or a brand experience, like it can stay, depending on where you host it, it can stay active for forever, or as long as that means in these days and times. And you can go back and you can reuse the space. You can change, a lot of it is customizable. It doesn't require someone like us to come in and customize, but we can build the space such that you can change assets. It can be an informational 3D interactive hub to your organization, your brand, your purpose, so to speak. So, I think about that in terms of the investment, then the numbers get pretty cheap in terms of like, you have this the same way you have an online experience. And then it's a matter of just driving traffic to it and using it. And, there's productivity elements of being able to meet in different than Zoom. And especially if you're using headsets, that's a very different way of interacting with one's colleagues that we think is, has a lot of applications. I don't few people going to be spending 7 hours straight in VR headsets going forward. I don't think that's the way to think about it. I think about it as like, it's a tool. I'm on my laptop now because I'm remote and I'm doing this webinar. I might get off of this, I get on my mobile phone and I might text some people to, answer a few questions. I might then jump into my VR headset and have a meeting because I need to be occluded. I want to be focused with that group and be able to take advantage of some of the productivity we have embedded within the headset. I might take that off again and hop on a video call. Like it's just another tool in the arsenal for people to use. And especially the way that you use a phone, a laptop, a computer. So you'll find the way that people have glasses, or they'll have something that's the form factor changes, carrying around with them all the time, and they'll optimize on what those experiences are. So I think it's, as always, it's important to think about, what types of experiences do I want to have in what medium? VR isn't the best for every experience, but certainly like it is better for some, and people will continue to evolve and find new ways to leverage it. So that's how we see these kind of interactions as helping. So.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for coming on the show today and just informing us of all the things Metaverse, AI, VR, AR. It has been an absolute pleasure to learn, and I definitely would love to learn more about Get Real and help promote what you guys do. And I know the rAVe agency is great to connect, and I know you've been on some of the shows and episodes they've had as well with us. So Ed, thank you so much for coming on today. We're at an end, and this has been extremely enlightening. So thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Bubba. Wish you best of luck going forward to the audience, and people can reach me LinkedIn, DM me if you have any questions, and be happy to talk further about anything we spoke of today.
All right, if you want to, you can stick around the control room. I'm just going to shut down the show, and I'll come say goodbye to you in that room. Appreciate it, sir.
Sure, no problem.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. Lots of informative stuff today about everything that we're hearing so much about. And if you're on ChatGPT using it to help you create your next meal with what you have in your fridge, that is a really easy tool to say, I've got chicken, got potatoes, I've got all the spices. What can I make with this? Also broccoli. And then you tell it to give you 5 ideas. It's an easy tool. Even my wife uses it. And so I'm glad she's not listening because that was rude. But anyways, thank you guys so much for being here today. We're going to have a quick shout out to Extron and Neutrik, and we will see you next Thursday, same time. We're going to be with Joni Kraut from Women in Games International, and we're going to talk about gaming. We're going to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, her experiences at GDC, the Game Developers Conference this last week as well. Thank you guys. Stay amazing. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Get future ready with Extron Esports AV technologies. Experience better looking images and higher quality sound with AV systems that are easy to control. When it comes to esports, Extron provides the winning edge. To learn more, visit extron.com/esports.